Hello everyone, my name is Udit. Today I'm going to be talking about the program sense interview that typically comes up in Meta's on-site loop for the Facebook program manager role. At the end of this video, you should have a pretty good understanding of what to expect in this interview, what your interviewers are looking for, and a couple of tips on how to prepare for it. Quick introduction, I'm from Prepfully. We offer online anonymous mock interviews with Facebook program managers. We've also got free mock interviews with other candidates, so if you're also just starting out on your interview journeys, you can start getting some early practice and assessing what your readiness level is. The same Facebook program managers who do mocks and give advice have also helped us put together content for this video. So, on to the program sense interview. In a nutshell, this interview focuses on your ability to demonstrate core program management competencies. The first is an execution focus, so how you come up with an execution strategy, make prioritization calls, organize program kickoffs, isolate and mitigate risks, and ultimately drive and eventually measure impact. The second is around how you manage stakeholders. So how you influence them, achieve alignment on strategy, synthesize key insights that help keep them updated, but also then drive regular communication cadences to make sure they're all in the loop and part of the process. Questions for both of these either follow the how do you XYZ format or tell me about a time you did XYZ format. A good example of the first is how do you usually make prioritization trade-offs? What are the factors you look at? How do you assess if your prioritization judgment was right? How do you iterate based on new information? Or another example, how would you sunset a really long-running program that doesn't seem to be going anywhere? Who would you involve? How would you communicate this? How would you close things out? Or if you want examples of questions which look at your past experience, you could get asked, tell me about a time you were late in delivering a key milestone, potentially with regulatory consequences. How did you deal with it? Who were the people you involved? What could you have done differently at the time if you had all the knowledge you do now? Or another example, talk about a time where you improved the process for the better. Again, who were the folks you involved? What are the actions you took? How do you decide what to work on? What was the eventual outcome? Don't forget, in all these questions, there's always the question of what you did and what the actual program task was, but also implicit is who the people involved were and how you worked with them, because ultimately program managers are the glue that keep a company's big programs running, and you want to be able to demonstrate that this is something you're not just aware of, but that this is something you've in the past demonstrated competence in during your roles. On a broader level though, I have 5 specific tips that are particularly relevant when interviewing for Meta. The first, Meta is looking for people who are willing to drive action fast. That's one of their core values. So being able to show that you can move quickly and that you can build awesome products while moving quickly is part of the core skill set. So try to make sure that this surfaces in your stories. The second, I'd also recommend being really honest about where you might have failed or succeeded. It's a really rare person who's got a record of perfect decisions and actions, and not being ready with stories that show your growth and show how you improved as a program manager can easily lead to your interviewer thinking that you're either inexperienced or you're just talking through your hat and making stuff up. Third, Facebook is all about impact and measurable results in a way that drive their core mission forward, right? So always try to not just talk about the impact you achieved or where you drove action, but talk about it in a way that weaves into the narrative the elements that Facebook actually cares about in terms of the how. So when have you moved exceptionally fast, for instance, or when have you optimized for long-term impact, or when have you potentially needed to be direct with colleagues, but in a respectful way that also acknowledge that they have an opinion and that they add value. Ultimately, these are guiding principles, and you want to make sure that your stories show that you're kind of aligned with them so that your interviewers get a sense of confidence that you can fit into Facebook, not just from a craft competence perspective, but also from a behavioral and how you work perspective. Fourth, a key aspect of being successful as a program manager is to demonstrate empathy and leadership and collaborating with others. And there's a whole Facebook value just dedicated to this. And there are actually separate interviews that are just going to deal with this, the partnerships interview, the behavioral and leadership interview, for instance. But it's really important that in pretty much all your answers which deal with this topic, and they can come up in other interviews as well, you demonstrate that you consider these important and that you're familiar with them, that you've demonstrated these in your past work, and it's going to be a factor of how you work in the future as well. Fifth, and last but definitely not the least, I recommend spending some time upfront and becoming super familiar with some of Facebook's products. Think a little bit about what the engineering and technical challenges are for these and how your past experience might map you into making a particularly effective program manager in this record. Facebook usually hires for program manager roles in specific domains. So if you have background or context in that domain, say as a learning program manager or a climate program manager or what have you, then make sure this comes through in your answers, because that is the core thing that they're looking for. That not only are you familiar with the domain, but also that you've worked in it successfully in the past and can apply that knowledge constructively in Facebook were you to be hired. So that's all from me. That's our guidance from Prepfully and our Facebook Program Manager experts on how to rock the Facebook Program Manager Program Sense interview. Once you feel ready for some practice or just want a sense check of your preparation level, you can book a Program Sense interview with a Facebook Program Manager on Prepfully. Or if you just want to practice for free with other folks who are also interviewing, you can do that on our website as well. I've included both links in the description below. I'm also going to include helpful links to other resources like a question bank, a written guide, delving into some other nuances of Meta's hiring process. Feel free to check those out as well. If you'd like me to make other videos on either the program manager domain or about Facebook in particular, please let me know. I'll optimize for whatever people are most interested in. If you found this video useful, please don't forget to like and subscribe. Thanks and good luck with your interview.
Thanks for watching the video. If you liked it, please subscribe. Our website is prepfully.com. We've got lots of interview questions there. You can also schedule a mock interview with one of our experts. You can find the link in the description below. All the best from us at Prepfully, and we hope you totally rock your interview.